setting up my soapbox.
Threat has been detected.
Screw off, holy crap. Don't need that in my life. I'm not about that. Let's turn that there. Okay, so this is a video that I made quite a while ago, or I should say rather this is like a reshooting of a video I made and intended to release a while ago, but I kind of paused on that just because it was a little off the cuff, it was a little harsh in some of the way it came on out, and I didn't want to put that out there in the world and be a huge prick. I'm going to be a prick today. I'm going to be a bit of a prick. But I didn't want to be a total straight one. Phrasing. So, right now there's a little bit of a huff puff going on about Dynamic Q in the Reddit comments, where it's regarding Riot's plans to integrate a true solo queue, where it's just you as yourself, you can queue up as an individual. This is namely there to address concerns or issues about people who don't want to be matched up, go into the current ranked and be matched up with, other Dynamic Q players in their team or against Dynamic Q players. They just want like a pure solo queue environment because they have this notion that by playing with a coordinated team or a pre-prepared team that it's impossible for individual skill to be measured, which is a ludicrous notion that completely shits on the art of analysis and recognizing individual talent within basically any sport. Now, if talking about numbers, there might be a point to it, but it already is a way to measure that within the current system. So I wanted to kind of go through and address my thoughts on Dynamic Q with this one, as well as just give credit to both sides of the argument where it's due. So for those of you that don't know, right now it's that Riot Lyte has been going on in the Reddit threads recently and saying, from this Reddit poll, we've gotten that people like Dynamic Q more, and it's like, okay, well, Reddit's been strongly anti-Dynamic Q for quite a while, so that's something that's a little hard to believe within that case. And then he also brings up the details of when they're going to implement the true solo queue, which is going to be sometime around Easter. And then there is a Reddit comment, it's gotten a couple upvotes to it, and it graced my Twitter feed this morning due to retweets. That, this is just Riot trying to prepare to set the stage for Dynamic Q coming off as a success, okay? Because you're putting off the solo queue startup, the true solo queue, individual queue, I'll call it, way down the road. Like, Easter's about the time, and that's a couple of months out from now. And that's just like, well, that's rather insane, of a long wait time. The season started like a month ago, and now people are going to be eventually, they're going to be done waiting, they're going to be queuing up, going to finish it on up, whether it's by themselves or with friends, whatever. People will be doing that, as it were. So that seems a little weird. And then, it will have its own ranking there. So it's like, well, then wait a minute. If I've already gone through and played in like the current queue, the ranked queue environment, got my rank there, why do I want to restart that climb over there? It's going to have less players because it's going to be put off way later. Less people are going to be really seeing it. There's an initial burst of players that happen when the ranked season starts, and that's, that will be well subsided by the time that this is going to roll around. And so it's really, it's Riot really trying to set up Dynamic Q. It's them creating this environment where, okay, hey, look how badly solo queue is doing. Look how few players are over there, and look how great Dynamic Q is doing. It's that is really unfair. That is really sketchy, and that is probably what is happening actually. And yeah, you know what? Let's call the BS on Riot for that one, about like rigging the system, as it were, to make their love child, their little idea, and concept, work for them. Now, this does not mean that an argument, and this does not serve as the basis for continuing to denounce Dynamic Q, and the reason why that I really say why the hell we even go to this lengths for Dynamic Q is because of the things that Dynamic Q already does to improve this ranked experience. So this is where I'm going to be attacking the arguments that come against Dynamic Q. Notions, arguments that I've seen through Reddit, all these other things. So, So first, I'll start with this one first, just because it's a little more. It's not the most prominent argument, but it's a lesser one, and then I'll go into like the real main argument here. So call this a warm up. Like initially when it was coming out, there's a whole bunch of pros on Twitter. They would tweet out and they would make some of these complaints about dynamic queue, and people would say that like, oh look, they're really unhappy with dynamic queue. They don't like it. They hate it. Well, that was initially bug problems. If you looked at the tweets of those pro players at the time, they're upset that they played a 20-minute game. They got matched up against diamond level players, and the 20-minute game they all won like a 1 point of LP. You know, it's like, okay, 20 minutes for 1 point of LP. That's rather insane. That's like not really good. They had the problems with the coding in the game and with how the dynamic queue was functioning, which wasn't an intentional function. It's Riot spaghetti code, which, I mean, they have plenty of spaghetti. They're quite the Italians when it comes to coding their game. That was a problem that they had because of that, how messed up the system was, and that mess up was an unintentional development of it. So they weren't making these same arguments about like, oh, we can't measure our individual skill. Find me a professional player that says that you can't, that their individual skill is not being measured. Find me a professional player that is coming up with all these other arguments against dynamic queue that every plebeian I've seen come up with against dynamic queue. I might be unaware of it. I could be more than wrong on this one, but I have a very strong suspicion, and I've kept up with enough news that I haven't seen such words like this. I have a very strong suspicion that not many pros will say the same things that the plebeians coming out with. So, and ever since that Riot has gone through, they've improved the matchmaking for higher ranked dynamic queue parties. They've improved, how fast it connects, who you're being connected with, the LP gains in there. I haven't seen so much of any complaints. I see a lot of pros saying, hey, we're in dynamic queue all together right now. Come watch us stream, which I think is a good thing, and I'll talk about, how that can benefit the competitive scene in just a moment on that. So now let's talk about the biggest argument that I've seen against dynamic queue. That argument being, if I play with a bunch of other people, then how can I measure my individual skill? Okay, like first off, okay, everyone has like this idea that friends are like magical, and that if you just put your friends together, then somehow, you don't have to carry. Somehow, you don't have to do anything in the game, and that they're going to be magically perfect individuals who are not going to lose their lanes, who aren't going to need this extra support, blah, 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 and that, you can't, because of, through the power of friendship, that you don't have to be, individually good in order to climb. Okay, let's take this notion that you can't measure a person's individual ability if he's playing with a group of people. Now, we got to kind of almost define a group of people in this case to be something more than just the rannies that they meet in solo queue, because the idea behind the argument is that because you can get into a Skype call with your friends, talk to them through the Skype, that it takes away from your necessary ability to have individual skill in the game, which it's... Okay. So we got to take that notion that having communication makes it easier to play the game. Yes, that is very true, but that doesn't just automatically fix your mechanical mistakes, or it doesn't suddenly level the playing field, and then the game suddenly doesn't evolve into purely about strategy. Okay, I'm sorry, you and your friends are not H2K. You and your friends are gold, silver, bronze rank ELO who have serious misunderstandings of how this game actually functions. And when you guys all group together, what happens is that you're going to be running out of excuses. So I want to take the main point and let's blow it up, okay? They say it's impossible to measure an individual skill. Now, from a mathematics standpoint, might be a little harder to do there. Because, with the individual communication thing, suddenly, you don't have to be so map aware if you have somebody, feeding you information about the map. But, hey, that's okay. Then you can focus on, being an AD carry, for example, and your support can be focusing on watching the macro play elements of the game, functioning like real teams, real, top-level players, crap like that in the game. Now, if we take this notion and we apply it to competitive play, All right. All those competitive players, they play as 5-man squads. They have their microphones on. They're all talking to each other. If this argument were to be true, if this premise of this counterpoint were to be true, it would be impossible to say that Faker is the best player of all time. It would be impossible to say that Bjergsen is the best mid laner in North America. It would be impossible to say that Feathervin is the best mid laner in Europe. It would be impossible to say that Doublelift was the best AD carry for a period of time in North America. Possibly the world, way back in the day. Impossible to have these conversations because they have teams. They got people who are helping them out. How are they supposed to show their individual skill? It's like, dude, you show your individual skill by being good at the game. If you can smash your laners consistently, your enemy laners consistently, I think you're pretty freaking good. If you understand how to trade, if you can understand how to use pressure in the game, if you can control the minion wave. There's so many individual things that you can look at to evaluate an individual's play that don't just magically disappear when you get 4 other guys on the comms with you. Like, it's absolutely ludicrous. But, oh, wait, but what my friends carry, how is that different? Okay. Now, this is where one argument that we have, like, some slight credence to. Okay, how does, like... how is it different from like a friend that you know, like stepping up and having a carry performance in a game, as opposed to a random that you're fortunate enough to get in solo queue? Okay? Now there's a difference as far as intent goes, where you can queue up and then you just magically get matched up with a Diamond Smurf, Lee Sin jungle, who like carries you through the game, and then there's a difference between asking your Diamond Smurf, Lee Sin jungle to carry you through the game. Now, again, people think that that's just like, it takes that one, person to carry on through. It's funny because it's like that's the hugest, like that's like the biggest point of the argument. Let's see how it goes. Okay, you can't measure an individual's performance in the game if you have all these people on a comm together. And I'm worried about people getting in on comms together because if they bring in an individual who is at a very high level and he solo carries the game for them, then he's going to cause their ranks to go up undeservedly. Hey, wait a goddamn minute. There's an individual showing his individual talent within a game? But by your logic, that doesn't bloody work. It's impossible to measure him. It's impossible to tell if he's a Diamond Smurf playing in Bronze because he's playing up with 5 other friends. Now, the notion of people getting a whole bunch of their high elo friends to boost them up, all right, that has credence there, but the answer to that system and the reality of what's going to happen in the situation is that there is going to be a cap. If you don't improve at the game, and if you don't learn things about the game, and if you don't individually improve, your high elo friends, okay, are only going to take you so far. They are only going to take you so far, because once it hits a point where the enemy team is consistently having more skilled players and you can't beat them, and then your friend has to start carrying you, 2 things are going to happen. 1, you are going to cost your friends the game. Let me turn this off. You are going to cost that individual the game. He's not going to be able to carry you against 5 other superior players to the rest of his team. Okay? That there is going to hit a skill cap point with that where it just isn't going to happen. Secondly, what is going to happen is that he's going to get bored playing at a lower tier of elo and having easy mode, and he's going to be thinking about his main account, and he's going to be thinking about, I want to go back to that one. He's going to be playing that, and he's not going to be able, and he's going to not play with you guys, and he's going to make, he'll probably have other friends around that high elo, or make friends around that high elo, and then he'll play with them more often, and then suddenly he's not going to be able to come around with you, and until you improve and step up your own individual play, you're going to keep cycling through high elo friends to try and artificially boost you up, which I don't care. First off, everyone is really overrating like this arbitrary ranking number that exists within League of Legends. It's important to have for professional players to show that, yeah, they are in fact like some of the best individual talents in the game. That doesn't have to be affected by them playing by themselves with 4 other randoms or playing with their other professional friends, which I'll get into that point in a little bit. Is it going to be a little easier to climb with your friends? Of course, because there's going to be communication elements into it. Suddenly, you don't have to worry about you don't have to worry about the randoms dragging you down. Think of every bronze meme that has ever existed within League of Legends about I would be diamond if it wasn't for my shitty teammates who are trolling and AFKing the game. Okay, put your money where your mouth is. You don't want a random to throw the game for you? Get your friends together if you have any. That's one thing I'm really starting to consider when it comes to people come up with these arguments. How many friends do you actually have? Get your friends together. Go play dynamic queue. Now you don't have any randoms. You don't have any randoms. All of you can put your money where your mouth is and say, I am not the problem, and then show me you are the problem. Then what happens when you lose? You can't blame the AFK random. Did you all just lose lane pretty hard? Well, then it looks like you need to get better. You need to practice something more. You need to practice a champion's fundamentals. You need to practice fundamentals of the game. Maybe your macro strategy needs improvement. Who knows? Maybe you're not communicating properly and setting up the ganks the way you need to. Suddenly, you can remove that extraterraneous stuff that's, holding you back, and you can actually address the things that are, in fact, holding you back. Okay? I think I'm a very unlucky person, because every time I've played solo queue, I've played with a few friends, and the best games I've had have been with my 5-man, with my other friends as a 5-man party. Now, why do I say those are the best games? Is it because I win? No, I've lost quite a few games playing with them on that one, but I am way less, I'll say, upset about those losses with my friends than I am about the losses I've had in my games where I've had to deal with randoms. I think I'm an unlucky person because every single individual random, okay, I've played with has been some kind of solo queue stereotype. The jungler who doesn't gank. Or, and not even to say that like he just doesn't gank, like he does not know how to play jungle. Or he's trying to play it like in hilariously incorrectly. Or he's just like legitimately trying to solo carry from the jungle and not working with the team. Laners who have fed. I had two guys who do queue for the solo lanes together. And each of them, so one of them starts up top, he's doing pretty okay up top. The other guy shows up 5-10 minutes late to the laning phase. So his enemy assassin has a bunch of free farm on him and free levels, so we had to babysit his butt. They try to lane swap, and they just keep taking turns feeding this assassin because they have no idea how to play far back enough from it. So now I, as an AD carry, have to deal with this assassin. Now initially, I do step up. I'm roaming to the mid lane, I'm waiting for this assassin player to be cocky, to go in, and then I'm there to kill him. Alright, I'm individually outperforming that. But then these players don't have the damage at all to help me out through the team fights. I have to deal with like 3 tanks on the enemy team. I don't have the proper PO coming in around me. The team fights are falling apart. These guys don't want to play the game. They're too full of themselves, think they're too cool to do anything else. One of their dads comes and yells at them, so he has to get off. So now it's a 4v5, or technically a 3v5 at this point. And I have to rely on my 2 friends to protect my ass. And it's just not enough. Now, if those 2 people were playing their best, if they showed up on time, and if we had some really close games, I would not be salty. I've had longer games in dynamic queue. I've had more intense games in dynamic queue. But I haven't had these bullcrap reasons and these people doing stupid things and getting into these petty arguments. We play the game. We play the game. And it's so much better. It is so much more fun for me than having to deal with people who have egos. I don't need a Jhin top laner. This actually happened yesterday. I don't need a Jhin top to be lecturing the jungle on all these things. And to be fair, the jungle was pretty trash. But then he talks about like you can't just let people's words get to you and affect your mentality. And as soon as we start to turn it on him and be like, dude, shut up and play, he's like, well, I'm gonna jungle then and see how that feels. Yeah, well, great mentality that you had, you asshole. Congratulations, you are this profiteering soapboxer who has really shown the way of, just the way of light, the enlightenment of Buddhism with how still fast your mind is. Way to be unaffected by other people's words on you. Consistently. I've had randoms screw the game, and I'm not good enough to carry. I'm not good enough to carry that. That's totally fine. I'd rather show that I'm good enough to carry with people who play the game properly. I'd rather be showing enough that I'm good enough to do that when everyone's on the same page. I don't have to be salty if I lose at the end of the day because I made this mistake here. That is totally okay to do. The comms are more fun. The strategy is better in the game. The games were more intense, more pleasurable for me. Anyone who says that, like, oh, if you get your friends together, it becomes less casual and less competitive. Okay, screw you. Screw you. Flat out. It depends on the people or friends that you're playing with. I will tell you this. If you get 5 cutthroats together who are just going to dig in, play the damn game, and they take it seriously, there is going to be anything less than competitive. It is going to be them a little more relaxed because they don't have to worry about playing their own game and hoping the stars align with the randoms. They can just set the strategy up. But it's not going to be like Trollsy normal queue unless you make it Trollsy normal queue. Your attitude about the ranked game is going to be half the problem there. Is going to be half of the problem there. More friends does not make it less competitive or even more casual. That is a fallacy. It depends on the people and their attitudes who come into the game. It's going to make me less likely to be upset with the game because I know everyone is on the same page. I can legitimately lose the game by not being good enough in the macro, by making these big mistakes in the team fights. Maybe my friends aren't good enough to do these things. Maybe I have to work around the friends thing. But suddenly, if one of us gets behind, we can communicate on how we're going to play around that. The game improves. It's a 5-man team game. People act as if it really is an isolated bubble. People act as if there isn't 9 other players in this game. They act like it's a one-on-one fighting game. Okay? All these points that people come up with, if this applied to like Smash 4 for Glory, we are going to make the team battles in Smash 4 affect your individual ranking. Well, what the hell, man? Like, I don't play on that one, and I mean, I don't personally play that. I want to have the one-on-ones. Why should my, that competitive score with, with friends, with other people, affect my individual score? It's just a one-on-one game. What's the equivalent of this League of Legends? Shoot, Magma Chamber has never come out. There is no one-on-one individual, I'm going to show up this one other player aspect in League of Legends. You got 5 other people in the enemy team to beat. Every time. You got 5 other people to beat. You got 4 other people on your team that you're going to have to work with. Sometimes they're going to be playing in a way that they basically should be on the enemy team. Other times they're actually going to be fulfilling their jobs pretty well. Pretty well. It's ludicrous. It's stupid. It is asinine to have these kinds of arguments against this system about having like this stalwart idea of the individual climbing up through the ranks and all of that crap. So what if platinum becomes the new gold and silver becomes an extra extension of bronze? Yippee! Then everyone can just know that everything has artificially shifted, that things are different, that the measurement of like a person's rank is different. And eventually, guys, we're going to have to stop getting laid by saying that we're platinum. Now we're going to have to say that we're diamond or master tier to get laid because, those other people that we're trying to flirt with are going to roll their eyes at us and be like, oh, you probably dynamic Q, though. Right, yeah. It has such a real-world impact on us. And for those of you that want, okay, and then let's talk professional play for a moment here as well. I can't think of a better system than Dynamic Q for the pros to all practice together. Like you got 5 players on a normal roster of a team, a standard roster of a team. You got 2 of them who can do it together. One of them is going to be left on his own. Okay, now these teams can practice all the time through scrims and whatnot. But now they could, and they do, by the way, they do. They can dynamic queue together, they can play as that 5-man squad together, and they can get even more practice hours in as a team. They can work on their communication issues still. A coach can literally go to the team and say, alright guys, we're done with scrims, I want you guys to go do dynamic queue now. Play all together, I want you to talk about these communication issues here, jungle and support, I need you guys to be talking together on this thing. And then they can all get their preferred roles. They can always play their roles. Always have that. And Dynamic Q and the new... Well, everyone's pretty much okay with the new champion select. That's not the problem. People don't have a problem with the new champion select. They like the way you can queue for the roles that you want. They like the system of the champion select. They're talking about Dynamic Q and the fact that it's about grouping. So, yeah. But now they can just... Imagine that. North American teams, European teams getting more practice as teams together. That's a pretty good system as well. I like that idea a lot. The fact that now they can always be practicing together. That can make it so much more better. Every high master challenger tier game is going to be up against other LCS teams. And they're going to be playing those communications. Suddenly scrims can kind of go on forever, gradually except that, it would be slightly less casual. There probably won't be like, okay, we can't play like the new thing that we're practicing in the scrims because we don't want to run into our LCS team that we're playing against tomorrow and, oh, here's the comp that we were going to play. Oh, shit. So, there is that concern there. Honestly, though, people have like this arbitrary solo alpha male wolf-like. That was a very horrible way of putting that one together. People have like this rogue vagabond warrior complex when it comes to like this idea of climbing as an individual. It's impossible to measure my skills in there. It's not. It is absolutely not. If you can't pull your own weight in a team of friends, if you can't give necessary communication information, if you can't play within an environment like that, if you can't listen to calls, if you can't be your own map-aware self, if you can't make up for the weaknesses of your friends through your strengths and they can't make up for your weaknesses, well then guess what? You're going to not have a good time. You're going to be losing. You're going to still be stuck at the rank that you're not going to be happy with. That's literally how it goes. That is literally how it goes. It's ludicrous to think otherwise. It is insane to think that by bringing in more friends that it's going to get less competitive, that the quality of the game is going to be about. It's not about the individual carrying. Oh my Jesus. These arguments are ludicrous. They don't work at the highest competitive tier level. They don't. There's no factual proof that's saying doing something with more friends makes it less competitive. It improves it if everyone's on the same page. My games, my experiences personally, and it's a little bit fallacious to include personal experience and with it, I will admit that as a sample size of one individual, that my experiences do not speak totalitarian for everyone in the league, but I have enjoyed my experience playing with my friends in a competitive manner, focusing on winning and trying to outmaneuver the opponent strategically and individually through that process, and I am more satisfied when I lose than when I lose because people give up in the game, because people have egos, people think they're better than the other randoms, people go in and they're like, screw working with the team, I'll just solo carry this stuff, and they're incapable of doing it. Dynamic Q is single-handedly the best thing that's ever happened in League of Legends. It is a team game that has room for individuals to shine through. But ultimately, the team that is more coordinated, the team that works together better, is going to win. And you're better off putting your friends together, working on those communication issues, building team skills through that you can apply in real life, that you can take to a job when it comes to communication, when it comes to coordinating, planning out things. You can take those skills to the real world, get valuable experience in-game with that, rather than having to work with random assholes who use the anonymity of the internet to be dicks. Dynamic Q makes League of Legends better. This isn't your 1v1 Street Fighter. This isn't your 1v1 Smash. This is a team game. And if you don't have enough friends to fill up a team, well then, maybe that's why you're making all these arguments about needing a true solo queue. Maybe that's why you're making all these arguments against Dynamic Q. Anyways, 28 minutes in. I feel like that was a fairly good take. A lot less explicitives than my first take. I'll be the first to admit that. And ultimately, I do have to round up and say that, yeah, Riot rigging the system to make Dynamic Q look like it's going to win, that is bullshit. That is something that really doesn't have to happen because, in my opinion, Dynamic Q is just flat out better than having to deal with all of the randoms. I don't find the logic. I don't find any working logic when it comes to arguments against Dynamic Q, favoring individual, measuring individual in solo queue. I mean, it's like, what, Riot already, like, customizes the LP gains that you get? Maybe I'm misremembering that, like, at all, but it's like, oh man. Man. There's eye tests. There's ways that you can just look at the numbers and you can award a score to each individual player. Like, that's what Riot does with, like, 10 people in the game already. Like, hello. I mean, the fact that, in, like, solo queue, that you probably still make different varying points in the old system, and then the dynamic queue system probably says that there is some individual measurement going on. Really, the arguments are just insane, in the sense that they don't work, that they're ludicrous, and that there are a bunch of people who are just so antisocial or have like this hard-on for just being like a lone wolf warrior. So, anyways, long-winded rant. We're going to wrap it on up here, guys. I know that this... Don't know what you guys think about this one. If you have your reservations about dynamic queue, do like sound off in the comments section. I would be happy to respectfully discuss them with you, because I'm talking to an argument here. I'm talking to a mindset here, and I'm going to be a little more vicious against that. But against like an individual who could bring up some concerns, I might disagree with you. I could agree with you on something, but you know, this is my stance on it. This is like where it's going to be standing on here. So that's really all I have to say for today, guys. I got a bunch of VODs and stuff I need to go do now. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I hope that you find some of my points and consider them, and that maybe we can get some really good discussion going on here, and that we can actually have like a decent conversation about like dynamic queue and about like the positives of it, because I don't understand where the negativity comes from. I honestly just don't. So anyways, this is CD Mangaka. If you want to keep up with more stuff of mine, art, whether it's writing or thoughts of mine, you can follow me on Twitter at CD_Mangaka. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. And of course, like the number one priority is have a happy day. Enjoy your solo queue or your dynamic queue, whichever it is you prefer, guys.